Hi, I'm Dylan, 30, and last year I gave my parents the kind of gift that takes a decade to save for and a lifetime to imagine. It was a top-of-the-line luxury motorhome, sleek silver, solar-powered, leather interiors, satellite TV, even one of those retractable outdoor kitchens. They always talked about seeing the country. When they retired, chasing sunsets and diners and RV parks like some kind of boomer fantasy. So I made it happen. I didn't just save, I sacrificed. No vacations. No new clothes. I once lived off peanut butter and canned soup for a winter to make another payment. But the day I handed them the keys, I swear it was all worth it. Mom cried. Full-body sobs, like I just gifted her a second life. Dad hugged me so tight I thought one of us would snap. He kept patting the dashboard and saying, "This is it, Dill. You did it. You made the dream real." They even made a toast that night over champagne in the driveway. My mom in her robe, my dad barefoot on the RV steps, saying how proud they were to have raised such a generous, thoughtful son. I remember thinking, maybe I finally did it. Maybe this is what being seen feels like. 1 week later, I opened Instagram while waiting in line at the DMV. First-class seats. A Roman fountain. Tag, Walker family getaway. First stop, Europe. My brother, Reed, grinning like he just discovered royalty in his family tree. My parents, wine glasses in hand, captioned with, "Finally giving our boy the world he deserves." I blinked so hard I almost dropped my phone. I thought maybe it was a throwback post. It wasn't. The RV was gone. Sold. I called. No answer. I texted. Left voicemails. Finally, 2 days later, I got a message from my mom. "Hope you're doing okay. We thought this would be the better use." Reed needed the experience more than we did. That's all it said. No apology. No thank you. Just that. I stared at that message until my vision blurred. My jaw locked so tight I felt my molars scream. I sat in my car, keys in the ignition, hand frozen over the gearshift, and asked myself the same question that's haunted me since I was 11 years old. Why is Reed always enough, and I'm never even close? I didn't reply. Not to that message. Not to the dozen that followed in the weeks after, all dressed up in false cheer and empty exclamations. "Europe is so good for Reed's soul." Or, "Wish you could see the Colosseum with us someday." Someday. Like I hadn't just handed them the keys to their freedom a week ago. Instead, I opened my laptop. Not for revenge, not yet. Just to remind myself that I had a life before that RV. A job. A business. A version of myself that existed before I let the word, son, blind me. I scrolled through old spreadsheets, invoices, even the blueprint drafts for my next startup idea. Something about that gave me air again. Like I wasn't drowning in disappointment, just wading through a temporary flood of betrayal. That night I called Joe. My ex. Well, sort of. The only person I ever let see the soft, unraveling parts of me. We hadn't spoken in 6 months, but she answered on the second ring like she'd been waiting for me to remember I was worth calling. I told her everything. The motorhome. The betrayal. The goddamn cappuccino photo my mom posted with the caption, "Moments like these are priceless." Joe didn't interrupt. She just listened and then said, "Dylan, they didn't deserve it. They never did." Funny how hearing it out loud cracked something open. Because the truth was, this wasn't just about the RV. It was years of being second. The invisible son. The one who got the hand-me-down bike while Reed got the new one with the flame decals. The one who got told, "Not everything's about you." Every time I asked why he always came first. But the worst part? I believed them. I believed that giving them something big enough, bold enough, generous enough would finally tip the scales. That I could force equality with a price tag. That $200,000 would buy me the seat at the table I never got as a kid. Instead, they resold it like it was Craigslist junk and handed the spoils to Golden Boy. I couldn't tell if I was more humiliated or heartbroken. So I took Joe's advice. I blocked their numbers. Blocked Reed too. Deleted them all from my social feeds. I didn't write a dramatic post or fire off a text full of fury. I just disappeared. And for the first time in 30 years, I stopped asking myself what they needed, and started asking what I did. It was around 2 a.m. when I made the decision: if they were going to pretend I didn't exist, I'd make it official. I moved out of my apartment the next week. Packed it all in silence, no music, no calls, just the soft thud of cardboard boxes and the slow, deliberate process of taking my life off a shelf. I left the couch I bought with my first paycheck, the wall clock my mom gave me when I graduated college, even the travel mug Reed forgot at my place 3 Christmases ago. I left them all behind. Clean slate. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. Just drove, south, then west, then inland, until the road stopped feeling like an escape and started feeling like a beginning. Landed in a small town in Arizona where no one knew my name, but everyone waved from their front porch. Rented a tiny adobe-style house with a lemon tree in the yard and Wi-Fi strong enough to run my company. And for the first time since the RV incident, I felt like I could breathe without apology. I poured myself into the startup. 12-hour days, spreadsheets, product prototypes, pitch decks, networking calls at ungodly hours. I didn't need validation, I needed momentum. And oddly enough, my absence from their lives became my fuel. Every time I hit a wall, I'd remember the look on my dad's face when he saw that RV. How proud he was, until he wasn't. Until love became conditional again. That memory? It pushed me further than caffeine ever could. 3 months in, I launched the beta for our automation platform, one that helps small logistics companies streamline their back-end systems without paying enterprise-level prices. Sexy? No. Profitable? Extremely. Within a week, we had our first paying client. Within a month, 3 more. I hired a freelance dev team out of Portland and a marketing guy named Elliot who made miracles out of nothing but Google Ads and 2 old laptops. And then it happened. Forbes. Freaking Forbes. They did a spotlight article on bootstrap founders reshaping post-pandemic tech. And there I was, front and center. The photo was terrible. My eyes were closed and I looked like I hadn't slept in a month, because I hadn't, but I didn't care. It was real. And it spread like wildfire. That's how they found me. Not through a call. Not through a letter. Through a headline. 3 missed calls from my mother. 1 text from Reed. Dude, mom's freaking out. Call her. I stared at the screen for a full minute, then turned my phone off and poured another cup of coffee. Because no headline, no photo, no success could erase the way it felt to be left behind for a Rome vacation. And if they wanted to know who I was now, they could Google it. It took exactly 12 days before they showed up. I was on a Zoom call with a potential investor when I heard the knock. Polite, rehearsed, not the kind you hear when something's wrong, but the kind your childhood teaches you to dread. I ignored it. Second knock. Louder. Persistent. I muted my mic and peeked through the curtain. There they were. My mom, in her pearls and a too-perfect cardigan, standing like she was posing for a stock photo. My dad, arms folded, wearing that serious expression he used whenever he was about to say something. For my own good. I almost laughed. It was 106 degrees outside and they looked like they were on their way to brunch, not trespassing. I opened the door an inch. How'd you find me? My mom gave this tight little smile, like we were playing hide and seek and she just won. Reed had your LLC registration pulled. Your business address is public. Of course he did. Of course. My dad stepped forward. Dylan, we just want to talk. No, I said flatly. You want to manage optics. I'm a headline now. That's why you're here. My mom flinched like I'd slapped her. That's not fair. Neither was selling the RV. They looked stunned, like that would be the moment I got over it, like 3 months and a feature article should have cured my memory. I opened the door all the way, not to let them in, just so they could see for themselves. See the house. The lemon tree. The startup founder's life I'd built alone with 0 help, 0 handouts, and absolutely no Rome trips. I gave you something priceless, I said. Not because you deserved it, but because I hoped, desperately, that maybe this time you'd choose me. That I'd matter. That you'd see me. And instead, you saw a check you could cash and a son who was less fun to travel with. Dad rubbed his temples. It wasn't like that. No? I snapped. Then tell me what it was like, Dad. Tell me how you justified turning my gift into Reed's Instagram reel. How you sold off the dream I bled for and used it to buy more miles for the one child who never had to ask twice. They didn't answer. My mom was already crying, mascara tracing black ribbons down her face. My dad just stared at the lemon tree like it might rescue him. We thought you'd understand. He muttered finally. Reed was going through a rough patch. He needed something. And I didn't? My voice cracked, not angry, but gutted. I needed my parents. The silence that followed was so heavy it made my floor creak. Then I said it. You don't get to be in this version of my life. Not unless you show up as people who see me, not just people who want to feel better about what they did. I shut the door. Didn't slam it. Didn't scream. Just shut it. Soft. Final. 3 weeks passed. No calls. No messages. Just clean, cold silence. And for once, it didn't sting. I poured everything into the business. We'd landed our 6th client, a regional logistics network out of Nevada, and we were scaling faster than I'd planned. I hired a proper operations manager and finally gave Elliot an actual office, which he decorated with vintage Star Trek posters and a lamp that made my Wi-Fi flicker every time he turned it on. I should have been happy. And in a way, I was. My company was growing. My team was sharp. My bank account didn't give me anxiety anymore. But there was a new feeling creeping in, something unfamiliar, something a little too quiet. It wasn't loneliness exactly, more like emotional jet lag. The kind that hits after you've sprinted out of a burning house and suddenly realize you're safe, but still smell smoke. That's when Jo called again. You need to talk to someone, she said. Professionally. I laughed. I'm not broken. She didn't laugh back. You're not whole either. She was right. So I found a therapist. A guy named Malcolm who looked like he taught yoga to CEOs and had the calmest voice I've ever heard. First session, he asked. What brings you here? I didn't know where to start. So I said the first thing that came to mind. I gave my parents a motorhome and they sold it to take my brother to Italy. He blinked. That's specific. And just like that, I told him everything. The favoritism. The way they always called Reed the miracle baby even though we were 2 years apart. The constant sense that I was tolerated, not celebrated. The RV. The betrayal. The Instagram posts. The door I shut. He listened without judgment. Then he said something that hit me harder than any of it. You keep framing this like a single act of betrayal. But from everything you've said, it wasn't an act, it was a pattern. The RV was just the headline. That stuck with me. Because he was right. My parents didn't just fail me once. They built an entire family system where my absence was easier than my presence. Where my wins were awkward, and my needs were inconvenient. I hadn't walked away because of what they did. I walked away because of who they chose to be. And the more I sat with that truth, the less angry I felt. Not because they deserved forgiveness, but because I deserved peace. Around that same time, I got an email from a woman named Laurel Bennett, senior editor, Tech Forward magazine. She wanted to profile me. The son who went silent and built something louder than applause. I said yes. And when the article dropped a month later, it exploded. Not just because of the product, not even because of the success, but because I told the truth. Not the sanitized version. The real one. About the gift, the betrayal, the choice to walk away. About building something not to prove my worth, but to reclaim it. Comments flooded in. Emails. DMs. People saying, I thought I was the only one who felt invisible in my own family. But there was one message I didn't expect. Read. Saw the article. Can we talk? I stared at the screen for a long time. And then I typed back. Maybe. But not as brothers. As people. And only if you're ready to be honest. We met at a diner halfway between my town and his. A neutral zone, no history, no baggage in the wallpaper. Just bad coffee, cracked vinyl booths, and a kind of silence that makes your chest itch. Reed walked in wearing aviators and gilt. He sat across from me, pulled them off, and for once, looked older than me. Tired. Maybe even ashamed. That was new. He didn't say hi. He said, "I didn't know they sold it." I raised an eyebrow. "Until when? Before or after you boarded a first-class flight to Italy?" He winced. "I mean, yeah, I knew by then. But they said you gave it to the family?" That it wasn't a big deal. I leaned back. "That's the problem, Reed. You've lived your whole life thinking my sacrifices were background noise." He didn't defend himself. Just picked at the corner of his napkin like it held all the answers. "I was always told you didn't need much. That you were independent. That you didn't really care about the stuff I got. And you believe that?" I asked. "I wanted to," he admitted. Because the truth felt worse. That maybe I was getting more just because they liked me better. That landed heavier than I expected. Because he wasn't wrong. And hearing him say it out loud was like watching a magician reveal the trick I'd spent my life trying to solve. "I don't hate you," I said after a long pause. I hated that I had to compete with someone who didn't even know they were playing. Reed looked up, eyes red. "I didn't ask for any of it." "No," I said. "But you didn't reject it either." Another silence. This one softer. "I read your article like 5 times," he finally said. "You're not just building something cool. You're building a life. One that has nothing to do with them." "That was the point," I said. "Freedom, not revenge." He nodded. "I want that too. I just don't know where to start." I looked at him, my brother, finally not the golden boy, just a person, stripped of spotlight and expectation. And I said, "You start by giving something away. Something that cost you nothing to get, but meant the world when you had it." He looked confused. "Like what?" "An apology." He nodded slowly. "I'm sorry." I let it sit there. I didn't rush to accept it. I just let it breathe. And that was enough, for now. We split the bill. He paid in cash, no posturing. As we walked to our cars, he turned and said, "For what it's worth, I would have kept the RV." I laughed. "A real one. The kind that doesn't come from joy, but relief." Later that night, I got a text from an unknown number. It was my mom. No speech. No guilt trip. Just, "We read the article. We see it now. We're sorry. If you ever want to talk, we'll listen." I didn't reply. But I didn't block the number either. They thought I'd cool off. That eventually I'd come around. Like I always did. But this time I didn't. Because when someone sells your gift, and your worth, for a plane ticket and a hotel suite in Rome, something in you breaks. And that break? It doesn't mend with time. It mends with distance. 3 months after they showed up at my door, I got a letter. A real letter. Handwritten. My dad's penmanship, sharp and slanted like always. "Dylan, we know we hurt you. We've said we're sorry, but we know that doesn't reset the clock. We hope someday you'll let us prove we can be different. Until then, we'll be waiting, with the kind of patience you always gave us, even when we didn't deserve it. No manipulation. No. But we meant well. Just regret. Honest, late, and heavy." I didn't respond. But I kept the letter. Not because I was softening, but because for once, they weren't trying to erase what they did. They were living in it. In the meantime, the company grew. I flew to Toronto to speak at a tech summit. Closed a 7-figure deal with a freight automation company in Brazil. Hired 2 new project leads and a UX designer who drank nothing but matcha and redesigned our dashboard to look like an app from the future. One night, after a pitch call that went better than expected, I opened my laptop and stared at the dashboard metrics. There it was, our client satisfaction score, 97%. I smiled. And I thought, they'll never understand this. This feeling. Because they were never proud of the work. Only the show. That same night, Reed texted me. "Can I ask you something, no drama?" I answered. "Try me." He asked if I'd ever considered just forgiving them. Not for them, but for myself. "It's exhausting," he wrote. carrying their mistakes in your chest like bricks. I thought about that. Long and hard. And the truth? I wasn't angry anymore. I was just done. Done chasing the version of me they might have loved. Done hoping for a rewrite of the story that always put Reed in the center and me in the background. Done giving away peace in exchange for maybe. So I texted back. Forgiveness isn't the hard part. Letting people close again, that's what costs. His reply came an hour later. Understood. But for what it's worth, I see you now. Really. And I'm sorry too. I didn't cry. But something inside me unclenched. A week later, I took the RV out. Yes, that RV. Reed had tracked it down. Bought it back from the guy they sold it to. Said nothing about it for months, just left the keys on my porch with a sticky note that said, "This belongs to you." So I drove. Mountains. Oceans. Open roads. I wasn't running from the past. I was reclaiming what they threw away. And this time, it wasn't a gift for anyone else. It was a promise to myself. Never again will I let someone else define what I'm worth. And with every mile, I felt lighter. I didn't need Rome. I needed this. The driver's seat. The silence. The road. And the version of me who finally chose himself.